For many, a trip to the dentist is something to be feared, from the needles to the discomfort to the fear of losing your teeth. But over the years, dentistry has evolved and developed into a more refined, less painful practice. In today's video, we will look at the history of dentistry, some of the disturbing treatments employed, and why you might be thankful for the treatment you receive today. It's perhaps helpful to start with some of the first evidence of dental work. As far back as 7000 BC, people of the Indus Valley performed basic dentistry. This was done using rudimentary bow drills with flint tips. These basic drills would be used to drill a hole into the teeth, all without pain relief, to remove cavities. This would have been done as a way to remove decay, clearing out a tooth of any rot, but would have been extremely painful. Drilling into a person's jaw was also used to treat abscesses in Egypt as far back as 3000 BC, but at the very least in ancient Egypt, some form of pain relief was used in the form of opium. Some of the earliest examples of tooth cleaning can also be found in ancient Egypt too. A powder made from myrrh, eggshell, and the ashes of ox hooves would be used as an early toothpaste. Causes of tooth decay were unknown for much of human history. Whilst we now know that one of the leading causes is consuming sugar, it was not widely known to be the cause of much of the dental problems. Sugar became a more common part of the human diet following the development of agriculture, with breads and beers becoming staple foods in many parts of the world. But for a long time, it was thought for much of human history to have been caused by toothworms. It was believed that these worms burrowed into teeth, causing the holes and pain. A tablet written around 5000 BC in Mesopotamia wrote about toothworms and the pain that it supposedly caused. No evidence was ever found of these worms, although exposed nerve fibers were thought to be the worms. This could lead to particularly painful extractions of these mistaken worms. Also, some unscrupulous dentists would even plant pieces of worms or similar materials into a patient's mouth, pulling them out later to prove that they had performed a successful treatment. All manner of methods were employed to get rid of these supposed toothworms, including using smoke and even gunpowder. Remarkably, the belief in toothworms would persist well into the 18th century. Dentistry wasn't always a reputable profession that required training and medical knowledge. It was first likely carried out by people with other professions that used drills, who would perform dentistry in addition to their main work. For example, bead makers, well experienced in drilling holes in small objects, would have been the perfect candidate for taking on the role of an ad hoc dentist. By 700 BC, the first examples of dental bridges can be seen. The Etruscans, a pre-Roman Italian civilization in Italy, would use gold, human teeth, and even animal teeth to make these dental bridges. Evidence from Viking burials show that they too would use all manner of treatments on their teeth. They would use toothpicks to clear out food, and there's evidence of root canal-like surgeries as well. But dental work would also be used for aesthetic reasons, with Viking men filing down their front teeth, not to make their warriors even more intimidating, but to mark them as members of the merchant class. In Europe during the Middle Ages, much of medical and dental work was carried out by the monks. That was until there were some prohibitions on monks being allowed to carry out such medical procedures that involved the letting of blood. This then saw the rise of the barber surgeon. Barbers who, in addition to doing haircuts, would engage in bodily amputations and extractions. For many, this was the dental care available. Simple extractions with little pain relief when teeth became too decayed. But these barber surgeons would not only offer extractions, but cleaning services too. They would use toothpicks and cloth before offering to whiten the customer's teeth. After scraping them, the barber surgeon would swab them with a stick dipped in aqua fortis. Aqua fortis is just another name for a solution of nitric acid. Now, this corrosive acid did leave teeth considerably whiter, but it did so by dissolving the person's enamel, causing irreparable damage and only ensuring future decay. The pulling of teeth even became a form of entertainment. Travelling circuses would include teeth pullers who would pull out an audience member's teeth in front of crowds. This would be done with no pain relief, with a sense of theatrics, and performed with a dental pelican. This device was designed to remove the tooth sideways after the claw was placed over the top of the tooth. This semicircular piece of metal at the end was placed against the gum. The pressure from the lever was intended to extract the tooth, but the process would also damage the gums and possibly other teeth in the process. But in history, not all extractions were carried out with bloody implements and brute force. Others would encourage the tooth to rot completely and drop out of its own accord. All manner of disturbing concoctions were devised, including grinding newts or lizards into a powder and applying this grim mixture to the rotten tooth. This was done to have the tooth fall out painlessly. Others included the use of a paste derived from boiled frogs and the excrement of ravens. Islamic doctors would even use arsenic, which would kill the gums and allow for easy extractions, but this would also run the risk of poisoning the patient. Nevertheless, arsenic was a common treatment in dentistry as late as the 1870s. One grim example of the dangers of using arsenic was in New York in 1879. A man by the name of George Gardner had received arsenic as a treatment to destroy an exposed nerve in his tooth, but he had succumbed to poisoning to the point where, quote, the man's head nearly severed from his body by decay caused by arsenic which had been placed in one of his teeth. As worldwide trade expanded and empires brought back sugarcane, the condition of teeth grew ever worse. Sugar sculptures would in Tudor times be a sign of wealth. Queen Elizabeth I reportedly had black teeth from poor dental hygiene, which led to it becoming both a beauty standard and a sign of status. It's reported that she even brushed her teeth with sugar. But sugar was also available to the general population too, not just as foodstuffs, but to be used in medicine. All this would increase the demand for proper dental treatment and care. Much of the development of modern dentistry can be attributed to the French physician Pierre Fauchard. He developed a number of tools which form the basis for dentistry implements used today. His book, The Surgeon Dentist, published in the 18th century, focused on the treatment of teeth and jaws and not merely on just extraction. It included details how to create new tools, introduced filings as a treatment for dental cavities, and suggested a link between the consumption of sugar and tooth decay. Pierre helped turn dentistry into a respectable practice, and not a grim butchery. Personal dental hygiene too would improve over time. For much of human history, chewing on sticks and toothpicks was some of the best way to clean one's teeth. The first toothbrushes were invented in 7th century China, becoming standard by the 1400s. They were usually made from stiff pig hair and bone handles. This was a rough way to brush one's teeth, but it was somewhat effective. The first mass-produced toothbrushes were made by William Addis towards the end of the 18th century. Another disturbing part of dentistry is the use of dentures. Replacement sets of teeth were first made from animal teeth or discarded teeth of other humans. But more disturbingly, during the 19th century, many of these human teeth would be pulled from the mouths of dead soldiers. Dentists would advertise the need for human teeth, as there was an ever-growing demand for false teeth as diets included ever more sugar. On the battlefields of Waterloo, the American Civil War, and the Crimean War, the bodies of dead soldiers were looted for their teeth. Such teeth were in demand as they were often belonging to younger men, who typically had healthier mouths. The dentures made from these teeth, held together with springs, wire and wood, would often be uncomfortable and prone to falling out. And very often, these dentures made of human teeth would succumb to the same decay and rot that befell the first set of teeth if diets and habits were not altered. Other materials were used, including ivory and even porcelain, although these often looked fake and were prone to breaking. It wasn't until the 1930s that resin and acrylic dentures were invented, bringing an end to the grim harvesting of dead soldiers' teeth. We shall now end this video with one of the most disturbing topics we have covered on this channel, the Vipome experiments. It at first looks like a dream, to be part of an experiment where you get to eat sweets and candies all day, every day. But in the 20th century, this particularly disturbing dental experiment was carried out. At the Vipome Hospital for the Intellectually Disabled in Sweden, hundreds of patients were enrolled in a government study to learn about the causes of tooth decay. It was funded by Swedish confectioners and saw vulnerable people forced to eat high-sugar diets of chocolate along with a notorious Vipome toffee. This was a specifically formulated toffee for the study, designed to be near impossible to chew, to stick to the person's teeth, and to be incredibly hard to remove. The people in this experiment were not able to give informed consent, and over a number of years, they developed horrendous cavities. Many of these people lost multiple teeth and were left in excruciating pain. After the study ended, they were neglected and they were never given any dental treatment. They were just left in pain for the rest of their lives. These patients were seen as less than human, as expendable test subjects. Data gathered during the experiments was clear. Sugar was the cause. However, information was suppressed by the confectioners for years. All the while, they benefited from the research of testing their new candies on people with severely damaged teeth. The horror of the Vipome experiments is one of the lesser-known scientific crimes of the 20th century, and one that should have never been carried out. The link between sugar and tooth decay was already known when this was done. And in any event, exploiting vulnerable disabled people in such a way has to be one of the most disturbing aspects of the history of dentistry. Whilst your next trip to the dentist might be painful, it could have been a lot worse if you were just living a few hundred years ago. From the bloody extractions to the grim concoctions used to cause teeth to drop out, the history of dentistry is full of disturbing and painful stories.